The New Mexico Pueblo Beginning Farmers and Ranchers Development Program has provided agricultural training to 101 Native Americans from the 18 pueblos in New Mexico. Through annual conferences, workshops, individual instruction, and on-farm demonstrations, the participants learn about raising crops and livestock, and were introduced to the services provided by USDA agencies. Various Pueblo livestock and farm associations and Pueblo tribal councils assisted in providing access and support to these trainings. The program has strived to honor Native American cultural traditions. One of these traditions is seeking elders' wisdom. Experienced farmers and ranchers served as mentors to provide one-on-one assistance to the participants. Here are testimonies from several of the program's participants.
When I was in high school, I did farm a whole lot during my high school years, and then I went off to college, and I tried to stay in agriculture, especially with the land I have here at Santo Domingo. And after that, I did get a job which was away from the village, so that took me out of agriculture and farming and livestock for a good, I would say, 25 to 30 years. But I never lost sight of becoming a farmer. I always wanted to come back and work with the community and the land that I have here. And once I did retire, I got into agriculture and met different folks from New Mexico State University with the agricultural programs that they had. And I was very interested. They were very good people. They had a lot of knowledge, and their technology and knowledge was great. So I wanted to pursue that and work with them with every step that I had here at the village. And right now, with the Beginning Farmer and Ranchers program, I have been taking advantage of all the workshops and different projects that they have throughout the southern pueblos, which was very good. They come out to your farm and look at it. We've done soil testing. We've looked at the water, the projects here, and they were very good about helping me out. And right now, I have this small orchard that we just finished planting today. And with this small project here, once it gains a foothold, and if it does real good, I plan on expanding the orchard project. And also I do have alfalfa and a small garden that I do work with. And that's all with the help of myself and the family, of course. But I want to keep them with me every step of the way. The reason I wanted to become part of the Beginning Farmers and Ranchers program was to improve the way of agricultural life here in the village. And hopefully once I do gain a better perspective on improving my agriculture phase of it here in the village, other residents in the community would take note and would also pursue a program such as what NMSU has instituted at this time. And along with that, I wanted to show my family, especially my two young sons and a son who is at NMSU at this time, what agriculture is like and what the process is, and how hard it is to be a farmer and to raise something with your own two hands and the whole family. But to be in agriculture, it doesn't take just yourself, it's the whole family, and sometimes, as it is here in Santo Domingo, it's the whole community that becomes involved.
With the extension service, being a mentor, this is what I do, is teach the kids, even adults, how to farm, how to do the proper way, and to at least get something out of it. You know, like I said, it's a great program. It really helped not only me, my grandkids, but the others. The boys got 5 horses and about 20 cows. They can vaccinate the cattle themselves, because with the extension service, it helped us with the BQ. And I've seen 2 other guys extension service put in fruit trees, and they're doing great. And some of the others, they have improved their livestock compared to before and now. And I know other places they did hoop house, even though only one of them, Diedrich, is in the program. So his brothers, they would tag along, so they more or less know how to go about as far as putting up hoop houses. And see, that's a good example, later on, they could do it themselves or help others. And that's one thing I tell the kids. When you're out in the field, if you see a farmer that's in a need, just go and help him. So I always tell them, money, yes, it's important, but if they give you advice, take it. That's gonna take you down the road. Money you can spend in no time. So those are the things I teach, and I really appreciate Mr. Gomez and the staff, New Mexico State, and whoever, and all the workshops.
I'm a beginning farmer, and what I like about the program is you get to go to workshops. You learn a lot. You bring back to the community, my brothers and relatives. Record keeping. You get to look back last year, what you did. Yeah, the loans, what we borrowed, we look back, and whatever we made in a year, that's what we have to pay back this year. So, but I really want to improve on ranching, cattle. Maybe later on I'll get a loan, start off, get some equipment.
I was fortunate enough that the last workshop in Albuquerque to produce I think like a 3x3 poster that kind of a little bit of history on what I've done since the beginning. So I have that poster up at work. So all my coworkers, all my staff, visitors get to come through and see that poster. So definitely I share that with everybody. Hopefully we could use the knowledge and workshops, education to help us to further our venture in agriculture and ranching. So with the hoop house, the raised bed gardens that we have, I think things are going quite well. So this year I had 4 brand new calves that were born. When I first started the program, I only had 2. And so now I would have been up to 12, but I sold a couple. So in the last 5 years, 2 to 12, since being part of the program, that's kind of helped me to know what to do or how to raise them. It's a science, it's definitely a lot more than just looks. Nutrition, vaccinations, what to feed them, what not to feed them. I think everything goes into raising a good animal. So you feed it good, you're going to have good beef. Well, we have the little raised beds that we do tomatoes, chili, and other small herbs. But in the hoop house, hopefully with this workshop, we'll get a better plan started, and then this fall really put it into production. My dad has basically taught us how to farm since we were how big? This tall? That tall? Still maybe as we were babies. So my inspiration's right here.
Corn, very important in our lives. We've been growing that ever since we were small, and we try to keep the old traditions still alive more in our family. And what we grow, we use it in our prayers. Of course, we use it to eat too, but then we're still going to have that. We're continuing on with that. Some of the men in the Pueblo, now it's mostly about money. Alfalfa, they sell, they make money. Us, the stuff that we grow, and people always come to us because they know we just give it to them just because we have a good heart. A lot of the stuff that we never grew growing up, and stuff that we see now, and just from what we've learned, we try new things now, and I'm very lucky. People tell me that I have a green thumb, it's just that I work at it, but some of the new stuff that we see that learning from you, We're trying that, and we're growing a lot of that stuff now. Lettuce, tomatoes, carrots.
Well, it's nice to have both perspectives. The traditional old perspective that he's teaching me, and then the new stuff that you guys are teaching. So we never were really ranchers until we really started with the project. So that's another new thing that we started. That with the program, it's helped us to, like you said, try new things. So it's definitely helped us to go in other directions rather than just what we were used to, and it's fun, like you said.
I think it was very important that we had young people getting started with farming and ranching. To think New Mexico Extension Program did an excellent job. Emmett Gomez and his crew, and people from New Mexico State that gives out little talks on how to farm and stuff like that. So I think it was a job well done, helping the Pueblos, the Native Americans with farming and ranching. I think they did a good job. And it's very important that the young people keep up with our tradition, the cultural, our farming. I was part of the program. I was a mentor for some of the young farmers and ranchers throughout Coach T, the other Pueblo neighbors. Give them a little bit of advice when to brand. You need to vaccinate. You need to take care of the cows. You don't just leave them out in the field. You need to go like every other day. Make sure the fencing is up. Make sure there's plenty of water. I think we had a lot of help from Charlene Carr, who did some of the soil testing, which I think had a better understanding of what kind of soil we had, if it needed fertilizing, if it needed manure or whatever to dress up the fields or whatever. I think they had a better idea of when to water the alfalfa. It wasn't like every other week that they had to do it. It's when it needed to irrigate. So it was mostly alfalfa, sedan, wheat. I know one individual started with cattle, and I think there's only 3 or 4 of us that are ranchers from Coach T. And at one time there was maybe 12, 15 ranchers. They used to do a lot of sheep also, but that was several years, a long time ago. It was kind of bad, but at Coach T, we couldn't farm for like 25 years when they put in the Coach T Dam. We had a seepage problem, which caused water to come up from the ground below the dam. So for about almost 30 years, we didn't farm or ranch. I mean, it was farming. All the farmland was full of water. Yeah. We lost some years of farming. And it was kind of hard for the young individuals to start farming again. So that set us back quite a few years. It's kind of hard because a lot of the guys don't have tractors, farming equipment. So we're lacking that. We're lacking, the Pueblo did have some, but they're in bad shape. We have 2 big tractors that they run half of the time. Swathers, we have 2 swathers. Balers, there's only 2. We have 2 balers, but only 1 works. So that's one of the main things that farming we need. Well, there's my brother and I, and 3 of my nephews that run cattle. We run maybe about 75 head. We had maybe 110 at one time, but we're overgrazing, so we had to cut back. So we sold quite a few of the old cows. So right now we're down to like 70, 75, and we're planning on cutting back some more. to save our pasture. You don't make money as a farmer or rancher. It's always losses or something, rain, coyotes get into your little calves or wild dogs, people stealing your stock, you know. There's something always going on. So it's hard. Yeah, but I like it. It keeps me going.
Actually, my job for the Pueblo here, I'm the ditch rider, and I've been doing the ditch riding here for 15 years for the Pueblo. I was starting to attend trainings, you know, that were helping me with my job. Got to meet people and just got interested in the farming and ranching. So I signed up, you know, and actually I had to go to council to ask for some land, and I was granted some land. So that was where I started. I actually applied for 20 acres of land and was granted 46 acres. But it wasn't all, you know, it wasn't all plantable or, you know, land that it could be used to plant. There's some grazing property in there, and prior to me getting it, the field that I asked for, which was 10 acres, it had probably been it was my uncle's field, and it had probably been planted like maybe, I would say 10 years prior to me actually doing anything on it. I have 3 small fields, and it's a total of 11 acres of alfalfa, and then I have an acre of corn, white corn, that we use for traditional ceremonial here at the Pueblo. And then getting ready to do another 5 acres of Sudan, and then, you know, build the soil, and then later on I'm going to plant pasture in that area. You know, so and the pasture seed that I got was through the program. I've been taking advantage of it. You know, I started my cattle operation, and that's been pretty successful. I started off with 2 calves and 1 small bull, and today I have 19 head. I've had a few sales, and I do a lot of trade because still putting a lot of the land into production still. So I'm just going at it, you know, day by day.
Had you known about any of this stuff before you started?
No, I didn't. You know, I didn't, and even going through the program itself, you know, attending the trainings, you know, I've always heard that these, you know, there's other, you know, things. I mean, there's other resources out there to help build your land, build your farm, you know, to help you with, you know, different stuff in the production. But I just never reached out. You know, I don't know. I just, you know, till the end, I guess, you know, when the seed came available, I said, well, I'll give it a try with the seed, you know, and see what happens. And I qualified, got it, you know, but I've also applied for EQIP grants, you know, and I had to qualify at the tribal level. So I was, you know, I had a FEMA disaster in one of my fields. We did some recovery, and then got some funding to rebuild the pipeline. So when I rebuilt the pipeline, out of pocket costs, I extended the pipeline to additional part of my land assignment. So now I'm building another pasture. So I'm just little by little. Okay, so my land assignment, when I first got, you know, I inherited the 46 acres. I kind of it surprised me. I really didn't know what to do. Got land, so that same year I bought a couple of, you know, head of cattle because it was suggested to get some cattle and, you know, let them clean the area out and see what, you know, we could do. Did some soil sampling, figure out, you know, where I could plant whatever needed to be planted. The first year I started off real slow. I started off with fencing, did all my boundary fencing in the area. Then started to do a little bit of planting. I planted a vegetable garden. My wife and I, my son, we planted probably an acre of corn, and we put in 100 chili plants and tomatoes. What else did we plant? Cucumbers and, you know, a lot of different vegetables. We just planted, you know, just to get the thing going. And we had a really good harvest. You know, we got quite a bit, you know, of chili. I think we got like probably 28 sacks of chili, and the corn didn't do too good, but we did get a harvest out of it. Everything else, you know, we just harvested everything and gave to the community. You know, it was pretty interesting, pretty fun. And I think from that point on, I just got into it, got more involved in it. I actually tried to do some pigs, and that was kind of crazy. I did that for about a year and a half. Ended up just giving all the pigs away. Got some goats, tried the goats, and to clear out the area. Had the goats for about a year and a half. It was kind of getting crazy having to manage everything. I just kind of jumped into everything at once. So we had a 4-H program here at the Pueblo. I just gave my goats and my pigs to the 4-H program and let them, take over from there. Which everything worked out. Everything worked out. It wasn't just dumping them off. It was like, well, if you want to take over it, you can take over it. They took over it, and then we did a butcher at the end of the season when the kids had to go back to school, and then they distributed some of the meat. So there's just so much going on in my operation. It's I'm putting a lot of the land into production. I think it's been pretty good, pretty successful. That I've been given more land. I've asked for more land, so I've been given more land, an additional 21 acres, but that's just more pasture land. So what I got out of the program is a lot of good mentorship. Just sitting in the meetings, sitting in the trainings that were offered. It helped me everything that I'm doing now. My cattle operation. I've explained. I have several head of cattle now. I've learned how to manage the herd. I've learned how to use the resources that I have. The land that I have, it's not all there for planting. I have some issues with soil sediment in the area. So I'm using it as I can. So I'm breaking it up to paddocks to rotate my grazing and use the natural forage. We have a lady here in our our environment program who reseeds some programs out, reseeds our natural pastures. I'm using her to come out and try and help me, select what's natural to our area and to do some seed drilling out there. So I'm taking advantage of those. I'm hiring her on my own, but I'm just trying to get the land in production and, use as much as we can. I'm having some issues with the soils, but I think it's just because having to move the dirt around when they're building the fields. So it's coming around. It's going to take some time. I've been told, I just got to keep working the soil and, get it back. So I'm just taking the advice and spending a lot of money doing it, but getting it done because, it's I want to hand it down to my son and my grandson, have them, have something for them to look forward to building on and continue the farming and ranching.
Being with the program late 2016, early 2017, been able to increase my knowledge of livestock and different farming techniques. My primary focus is ranching. We're raising Angus beef. What really opened up my mind was with livestock is the low stress handling, the importance of record keeping, and selective breeding. And before growing up, when we were growing up, it was just buy a bull and put it in the herd and hope for the best kind of mentality is what grandfather and uncles and everyone else had. And by being in the program, I was able to see that there's something beyond that. And right now with our cattle, our primary focus is low birth weights so that we don't have problems calving, especially for first-time mothers. On the farming side, again, it was just kind of growing up. It was just put these seeds in the ground, turn on the water, and hope for the best. Through the program, through the ranching and farming program, we were able to get soil tests done on our fields and see what the composition was and what the deficiencies were, where we were able to determine what needs to be added back into the soil. And we've just learned so much, just opened up our eyes. And, we say every time we go to one of the meetings, we're learning something different all the time.
Record keeping was the top of the line for me, because prior to entering into the program, I had some records, but not enough. And so out of our record keeping, it took us into a different realm of cattle, raising cattle and selling our cattle. Right now we're working with the low stress management. We have the health care of the animal. We do, we change the pasture feeding. We have a timetable for breeding season, a timetable for separating the yearlings. We have a time. We were put more on a schedule now, and we were able to join a program, Labatt distribution, where now we contract our animals and our cows, and we get a better price for it. We get paid for the work that we're doing. With the BQA certification, the low stress management, everything that we're doing, we're finally seeing a profit for it. We have a uniform style of cattle, and I think that's the most thing that helped us to get over the hump, because we were just barely starting, and now I feel we're getting to a place where we can share with others what we're learning. And out of 7 associations in Laguna, our association was the only one that got picked by Labatt. So that was a big accomplishment for us, because we had all our records.
We have a lot of farmers that are trying to use the traditional fields. We were accustomed to a certain type of farming, but now that we have drought, and traditionally we had dry farming, and so it was a different type of farming. And that's one thing that we are having a problem with, is trying to, we don't have enough water. And so a lot of times it's the way you treat the soil and the way you actually water your field. And now that we have a science that's available and that we're introduced to, it helps us maintain and grow like for longer spans of time and different varieties. And we have to do new things to actually sustain what we used to grow. And especially if it's the corn, which are the sacred items that we use. And so it's to maintain that. I live in the city, so a raised bed is the best thing for me, because in my area we have really bad soil. And so it was often really difficult to water and to treat the soil. So a raised bed would really help me at that stage. And so it'll help me grow into the winter season also. Right now I'm trying to bring back the traditional crops, and it's mainly the drought-tolerant crops. And also I'm trying to replicate, like say, the Indian tea, and which is kind of hard to find because of drought. So we're having to try to grow it ourselves.
The amount of knowledge and just meeting and greeting of people is invaluable. There's so much that has come about in the last 7 years. Everything from meeting people to marketing our beef to being put on councils. Now I sit on the Acoma Livestock Grazing Board as a chairman. So just these doorways that have opened, I guess, have been tremendous to our community. Not only me, but I get the information and I take it back and disseminate it to the Pueblo as well. And so just getting that, and then of course our cattle group. And so now we just from everything from going to seminars, meeting people, and then taking that and doing what you can with that information. It's up to you as an individual to, if you show up, to take advantage of it and put it into action. Some people just go and hang out, but it's another thing to actually put it into action. And so we've done that with our cattle, and now we've one of the seminars we went to, Labatt was there, and we now market our cattle to Labatt and sell directly to them. So when we market our cattle to Labatt, we experience a higher price per pound, and we sell directly to them. No slide, no shrinkage, no. We don't have to hold them, dry lot them, or anything. We take them in, and they inspect their cattle, make sure it meets their qualifications, and with that, we follow their vaccination protocol, which gives us a higher return in our price per pound per steers and heifers that we sell to Labatt. Okay, so we typically average about 40 steers that we take in. We're hoping to expand that. So with that, sitting on the Acoma Livestock Grazing Board, I am the chairman. Been the chairman for the past 5 years. The board started in 2014, so been there since the start as well. So with that, it's just a lot of stuff we typically see in the seminars. Your grazing, how to graze, the different methods, cattle husbandry, and so all that, and just all the different techniques and people's own personal accounts, what works, what doesn't work, and kind of trying to make it work in a sense, I guess, because you get everybody's side of the story. You get the professors that have studied this, that have degrees, then you get some accounts from some ranchers, and so putting those together and then bringing it back to your community and seeing how your community operates and trying to make it all work together. And so with that, a lot of tradition is involved here under Pueblo of Acoma. So again, incorporate another management type. And so just trying to make everything work and trying to understand how that all can work here on the Pueblo of Acoma. And so it's been challenging, but it's been good experience. And so it's just like anything else, there's some kinks that you got to work out. And so now we're going to grazing permits, and so with that, there's a lot of different groups that didn't have grazing permits, and so now we're going to their grazing permits and letting them be the permittees, and they have to manage the land, take care of it, so a little bit of responsibility.
I ranch here at Acoma on the number 8 ranch with my 2 sons and my grandson. It's more or less a family ranch run. We used to run Herefords. I started with my dad about 30 years ago. So I've been ranching a long time. Back then there was no seminars, no workshops. We just did the best we could with what we had. We're currently running about 100 head. We're permitted for 110. So our booths are all registered Black Angus booths. Probably close to 40% of our herd is registered Black Angus cows. So we're slowly trying to go to all registered cows. We have a lot of calves that are real gentle. Disposition is very important to us. It's easier to work the cattle when you have gentle calves and cows. A lot of the importance has been booth selection with the EPDs, knowing what them numbers mean and how it affects our whole herd as far as feed efficiency. They gain more pounds on less feed. That passes on to the calves and the heifers, so we're starting to go that route. One of the traits that we market our cattle off is carcass value. We go for carcass value. The dollar beef is very important to us. And milk production, we want it low because we're always preparing for drought. The drought of 2012, 13, 14 really taught us a lesson. We keep an eye on the body score condition of the cattle and then how much grass we have. Well, I'd like to thank New Mexico State University for all the workshops and seminars. They're always very interesting. A lot of times you don't pick up everything, but at the next seminar you pick up more, The knowledge you gain going to these workshops is very important on if you're going to have a successful operation or not. Like taking advantage of all the programs that they offer, especially at USDA and FSA, ranch loans, and so they've been a big help to us, and it makes us a good working ranch.
The reason why I got into this was because in previous years I've always farmed and would farm out here. but the hail comes through every year and thrashes everything. So I got into it, and the beginning farmers, ranchers, we had a workshop, and I attended, and it was going to cost some money. And I said, well, I guess, I'll put it up. And then a week later, then Tori and Dal and them called me and said that I was going to get a grant for the hoop house. I said, wow, great. The reason why I planned it out here is because I wanted to see it and make a comparison. When you go inside, you're going to see what the difference is. It's quite a difference. These are watermelon, yellow melons that I have. This side is the blue corn, and the white corn's on that side. They say that you're not supposed to plant them together because they're crossbreed. And I want to see, for myself, see what happens. Oh yeah, I see the growth. It's really.
Are you watering about the same amount?
Yeah, because I wanted to see what the difference would be, and you can see. I have some tomatoes, about four of them back there, and then I have some traditional tomatoes way back there. They're not going as good as these ones, but the melon and the watermelon are going good, and the chili you can see going pretty good. Well, I'd like to thank the Beginning Ranchers and Farmers program that we can do stuff like this, because there was people that were skeptical about how this was going to go, but I'm one that's I've always tried different things and different methods, and that's one of the things that I'm grateful that these people have guided me and helped me save that much money and be able to produce for my own people. But they want to see me, go further. I understand they have a workshop coming up on the 9th, and I want to see how you make the beds and carry on through the winter months. I've never had anything grow during the winter months, so this will be my first time.
We ran a community garden, and I ran a crew of 3 guys plus myself, and we run a 7-acre farm. It's been pretty helpful in plenty of ways. We get a lot of knowledge through their workshops we go to, and we do a lot of traditional planting: white corn, green chili, squash, tomatoes, melons, watermelons, and sweet peas. The community garden, we distribute all our food to the schools, the local schools, as well as the senior center and the daycare. So everybody gets their share of vegetables, fresh vegetables, because it's kind of hard to get vegetables around here. And probably the furthest, the nearest place would probably be Bernalillo. While our traditional crops would be our corn, which is our livelihood, and it's the white corn and the blue. So the white corn is mainly used for probably more traditional purposes, like our ceremonies and stuff, and then the blue is what we would consume within our ceremonies. So we have continued our historical chilies with planting our native variety, and then as well as the outside variety, which is a Sandia Hot and a little bit of Big Jim for our seniors, because they really don't like the hot stuff. So we had the Head Start come out this year. They planted with us. We planted some cucumbers, some watermelons and melons with them. And we wanted to do some corn with them, but it was already far into the year for them. So they'll be back out here in the fall time, the smaller ones. The older ones are already going on to the next level, so they'll see what they planted this coming season, and then they can come out and pick their own.
Best thing I gained was as far as, I think for me it was the soils, of getting our soils right before we even attempt to try to produce anything. I'm currently growing 4 different types of tomatoes in my hoop house. And what I'm trying to do is, again, trying to learn how to grow things first, as recommended by Dell. And then eventually, as I get good at it, I can be more efficient at it and effective out of it. And eventually, I would like to become profitable in it. As far as the bison program, we are currently raising about 100 head of bison, which we use for our traditional purposes. And eventually, we are going into the second part of our plan, which is the economic component, where we sell bison to the Martinez co-op. And as far as the ag program, we're revitalizing the program to incorporate the growing of crops, both for traditional use and for commercial use as well. Well, the alfalfa here we grow for the bison, so we try to grow about at least 3,000 bales for the herd, and any surplus we do have, we can sell to our community at a reduced cost. And then further in the back, of course, is our garden that we're working with the Martinez co-op as well. We want to do a specialty crop with them. So right now they asked us to try beets. So we have 2 different types of beets that we want to grow. And if we do become successful at it, then we can expand it, and that'll be our specialty crop that we deal with La Martinez co-op. Yes, I would highly recommend that any program sponsored by the New Mexico State University, as far as Beginning Farmer Ranchers program, that anyone interested should attend those. You know, it's sad that the program's ending, but hopefully, funding can be available again. There's a lot of information that can be learned, but for me specifically, it's a lot of doing research on your own as well. But I believe the program steered me in the right direction.
I'm growing maricopa sweet corn. The seeds I got from Native Seed Search. I received those seeds last year for a youth gardening program that I had at the Taos County Economic Development Corp. So the program helped me learn a lot about how to put up my own hoop house and the costs associated with that. I've learned a lot about insect management, pest management, like grasshoppers and prairie dogs. I learned how to prune fruit trees and take care of fruit trees, and just how to access a lot of the agricultural resources available to us, like NRCS, NMSU, a lot of that. For the future, so in the grand scheme of things, on this land, I really want to start my own learning center, but I also want to have like an internship program going on at the same time. So I'm hoping to have at least 2 to 3 interns working with me throughout the summer.